Cosmers, what's up? Today it's an update on all of the Cosmere stuff we found in Rhythm of War. See you after the jump. Okay, I actually wasn't planning on filming this video tonight. I'm like in my PJs or ready to go to bed, but I got so excited about Sanderson's live stream and kind of all the stuff we found in there and how it related to a lot of the stuff that I missed previously in my Rhythm of War Cosmere video that I just wanted to make this video right now and just get it out to you guys and see what you guys think about everything. So first, I'm actually gonna go through comments that you guys left on my last video, and I found some words of Brandon as well to support some of the stuff you guys said, so I wanna go through that first. This is gonna be a little different format than most of my videos because I'm really just gonna be going through my notes and the things that you guys said to me. So let's get into it. We'll start with your guys' comment. So right off the bat, I just missed talking about 3 shard names that were new that we hadn't actually known before Rhythm of War. So thank you, A.S. James, for reminding me that we learned about Invention, Whimsy, and Valor. So those are pretty fun shard names, and I'm particularly interested in Whimsy, and most people in my comments were. Another thing I missed, thank you, Ashlyn Mario Sequiria, that Gara, the steward in the Kolinar Palace, he is probably Terrace, and the person who must have complained about Axendweth to Gavilar. And he's also likely the person Lift found dead. So didn't really know any of that. You guys can comment on that below. I thought that was a good catch. Next, I'm gonna go on to some discussion about the rhythms because I had brought up Tower Light and their rhythms and War Light, etc. And Pete Wagar, who's also a booktuber, you can check him out, he said, per some word of Brandon, he has said that rhythms are a central theme throughout the Cosmere magics. So I went through a bunch of word of Brandon's and I can confirm that that is accurate, and I'm gonna read some of them now. But Corbin Scott, first, he commented, Ruin and Preservation definitely have a tone. Remember that Vin could hear Preservation through the mists and the distant drums of Ruin calling her while burning bronze. Oh, what a cool connection. Totally didn't make it, so I really, really liked that comment. Let's go on to some word of Brandon's. This one's pretty long, so I'm just gonna paraphrase. Basically, the question asker says, if you took a Parshendi and they were born outside of Roshar and never visited Roshar in their lives, would they hear the rhythms beyond Roshar? Rhythms in general. And Sanderson said, yes, they would sense them. And the question asker asked, even beyond Roshar? And Sanderson said, what they are sensing, it's something that pervades the Cosmere, but on Roshar has a specific way of manifesting. So I think that's pretty well to Pete's point, that it's the whole Cosmere. Another one asked, can Allomantic Bronze Burner hear the rhythms on Roshar? And Sanderson said, yes, this is possible. Again, if a Parshendi were to attain Allomancy and burn bronze, how would they feel about the bronze pulses? Sanderson said they would feel that they were somewhat familiar but a little odd. So this is all telling me that obviously all the shards have their own rhythms, have their own tones, and on different planets we're going to be hearing different things. So I find this all to be very interesting. I have one last one. Hypothetically, if all the listeners were to go extinct, would the rhythm still exist? Sanderson said, yes. Okay. So very clearly, tones are going to be very important in the Cosmere. I kind of theorized that, but this is the word of Brandon that yes, it is true. My next little bit has to do with Vasher. I had a lot of Vasher stuff, and no, this is not about Vasher being dead. I knew Vasher was a returned. You can just read my pinned comment. It was just a mistake. Don't worry about it. This is more about like Stormlight and his breaths. Void Saber said, Vasher can't use Stormlight to awaken according to Brandon. He's still using his large collection of breath to awaken since you can retrieve the breaths. I did find the word of Brandon on that, which I think is right here. Would Vasher be able to use Stormlight in the same way that he can get breath? And Sanderson said that would not immediately be easy, but Stormlight could feat Nightblood, which we obviously already know at this point. I think that was before we knew that. Another questioner asked, with Vasher on Roshar, is he collecting more breaths or just burning through slowly what he has collected? And Sanderson said he can use Stormlight instead. That's why he came to Roshar. And then Sanderson says he came voluntarily because he was tired of sucking souls. So yes, Roshar is where he came because it's so much easier to get than breaths, but he does say that he cannot awaken with it later. Let me find that one real quick. Here's the right word of Brandon. It's actually from Reddit. And he talks about Azura was legit using breaths, for example, ones that she brought with her, but Seth was able to feed Stormlight to Nightblood, much as Vasher uses Stormlight to keep himself alive. To awaken with Stormlight, the easiest thing to do would be to first change Stormlight into breaths, something that Azura doesn't know how to do. Admittedly, Hoyd doesn't either, so it's not like it's a simple thing to achieve. So that, I think, is definitive proof Hoyd doesn't even know how to do it, okay? So it's easy to use Stormlight in replace of your Divine Breath, not easy to use it in the case of Awakening. So there's the word of Brandon on that. Okay, the next one is from Tanyam928, and he talks about, it was mentioned that there's a dragon on Roshar, and that is most likely referring to the vessel of cultivation. Okay, so I was like, how do you know cultivation's a dragon? I mean, I know that Hoyd mentioned a dragon, but I was like, whatever, who really cares? And he was like, well, there's a word of Brandon about it. And the word of Brandon says, in Words of Radiance, Hoyd says that there's only one person as old as him around and seems to be referring to cultivation's vessel. In Rhythm of War, he mentions there's a dragon on Roshar. Are these two individuals the same or are they separate? Sanderson says, yes, these two are the same. And weirdly enough, it came up again in the live stream tonight. And someone asked again, is cultivation a dragon? And Sanderson was like, I could RAFAO this, but I'm not trying to make it some great mystery. Yes, cultivation is a dragon. So I didn't know that. So thank you to this person who told me that. And also it was confirmed tonight. So that's a very cool piece of knowledge that I did not have previously. So thank you. So next, about the Scion on Roshar, Jason Allen said, Scions are splinters of devotion rather than dominion. Dominion was the shard tied with land. Makes sense from the name. Though both shards' deaths ending up forming the door in the cognitive realm. So they mix a lot for many of the cell magic systems. Scions just isn't one of those cases. So this was in response when I was like, how's that Scion off planet? So I thought this point that Jason brought up was very interesting about devotion versus dominion, one being more of the land, one versus not. Now, I do not have a word of Brandon on this, so I don't necessarily know if this is true, but I thought it was a very interesting piece of knowledge, so you should drop and tell me below. Although Sanderson did talk a little bit about it tonight in the live stream. Let's see if I can find that note real quick. Okay, so someone asked, why can the Scion leave? We're all very interested in that. And Brandon said in his own words, it's a huge RAFO. Okay, so we knew that, right? That's a super important thing to the Cosmere. And he said race hasn't figured it out yet. But one thing he said is that Elantris is an oddball among the Cosmere magic systems. So you guys need to theorize along those lines. So that's food for thought. Again, someone in my comments, a couple people compared me to Navani when I was like, I'm not a Cosmere scholar. But I really do like that comparison. I like to think that I am not the scholar myself, but I am helping the other Cosmere scholars to come together and lend me their knowledge. So if you have some sort of insight about why you think Elantris being the oddball in the Cosmere magic system has to do with being able to get that Scion off the planet, I would really like to know. So leave your comments below. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about Kelsier and the Ghostbloods. This was mostly because people said that Brandon had a very cheeky answer to some word of Brandon's about Kelsier and the Ghostbloods, and I love it. It's the question askers asked, if Kelsier, when Vin knew him, were to join one of the Rosharian secret societies, which one would he choose? And Sanderson said he would become a part of the Ghostbloods, most likely, and would be in charge of them within a year. Ha ha, Sanderson, you're so funny. Someone else asked, the Ghostbloods, are they Kelsier's new crew? And Sanderson said, oh, good question. Do I want to answer this or not? I'm going to RFAO this one. Okay. So I think it's clear that Kelsier is who we think it is. And some people were saying, well, we don't know for sure. But tonight at the live stream, I think it for sure is. I wrote some notes down that Thaddeus is most likely Kelsier because of the way that Sanderson talks about them. Because Sanderson says you can see his behavior in other books, and was comparing it to some questions someone was asking him. And the way he said you can see his behavior in other books, plural, makes it very clear that our ideas about it being Kelsier are correct. I personally don't think that's a mystery. I think it for sure is Thaddeus. So yeah, I think we can put that one to rest. This next one was just some really cool theories that I thought you guys had. Clayton Demmer reminded me that we get to see Allomancy in a way in Rhythm of War because he talks about how Navani is presenting how the Spren react to a bunch of different metals, and it didn't even cross my mind. Duh, they're reacting to those metals in the same way that those metals work on Scadrial. So I thought that was a really cool connection that I just totally didn't make, so thank you, Clayton, for that. Some more Allomancy stuff. Chris VH talked about Ralkalast is the name the singers use for aluminum, is actually a cell term that was originally mentioned in The Emperor's Soul. Great connection there, obviously didn't make it. And Lurfjerv at the bottom says, a tiny bit on top of that, it's the old name for aluminum, which makes sense because Elantris is supposed to be set far before the rest of the novels chronologically. So I think that's just like a cool tie-in. I really like when we get those timelines. So not like a huge bit of information, but I thought it was pretty cool. And then Raphael Gregorian had a very cool theory about El replacing his carapace with metal horns. So maybe Hemalurgy. I'm not gonna say it right, it's fine. So what do you guys think about that theory? I thought that was a very cool theory. I was like, cool, I wanna look more into that. And last but not least, it turns out I was right that nobody knows who 16 is. So I just wanted to definitively say that because I was like, I don't know who it is. I was theorizing a bunch of stuff. People said all sorts of different things. Some people thought it was Seth's dad. Some people think it's most likely Elantrian because he didn't need to eat or drink. I'm convinced it's Scadrial, and a lot of people agreed with that just because of the 16 connection, so I'm very excited about that. We all don't know who 16 is. It's a mystery we can find out together. So that was the end of the comments on my video I really wanted to talk about and address and give you guys more information about. Now I'm going to talk about Sanderson's live stream. I took some notes for you all. There was so much stuff. It was a 2-hour live stream, so this is not going to be comprehensive in any way. My goal was just to talk about the stuff particularly relevant in the Cosmere and maybe a little bit of the Stormlight Archive just because it's Rhythm of War. So if you're interested, you really should go check it out. There was a lot of funny things, a lot of good information we learned that I'm just not going to talk about. And I will also say that there was a ton of Raphos, obviously, but the questions were so good that I really encourage you to go just at least look at the 17th Shard summary of them because I feel like the questions spurred my thinking a lot. But that being said, let's talk about some of the things Sanderson talked about. Someone asked about the Nihil bond without oaths, and we had been talking that a little bit in my comment section, and Sanderson said, well, like Great Shells and Rashadium, that's a Nihil bond with no oaths, but if you're talking about a sapient individual and a sapient Sprend with a radiant bond, yes and no. He said the alignment of the Sprend took time, like these orders took time. And before that, you were bonding a Sprend without oaths, but it wasn't the same powers as there are now. So it kind of was, but it kind of wasn't. They weren't the radiance that we know today. So I thought that was interesting because we've been talking about that. Nightblood can't eat a shard. That was the point of that scene, which I think we all kind of gathered, but he basically said, Nightblood can't eat a shard. Shard should be worried, obviously, but can't eat a whole one. Cyanot likes the Truthwatcher Spren because they are willing. I thought this one was very interesting. All the enlightened, or rather corrupted Spren came willingly. They wanted to do it. So I just thought that was a little interesting bit of trivia. So there was tons on Shallan in this live stream. So if you're very interested in Shallan and her storyline, I'd really recommend you just going and watching it and skipping ahead to the Shallan parts. Basically, the main thing I got away from Shallan is reconstructing the oaths she said before, which is a little different than other Radiants. And he said that you can kind of go back and try to figure out when was she using pattern, when was she using testament, and that there are clues in the novels. So there's something to look forward to in your rereads. I thought that was very interesting. Also, another very interesting thing that was hinted at by the scene with Maya is if you broke oaths with a Spren before the Recreants, they were not Deadeyes. So if you broke the oath, they did not turn your Spren into Deadeyes. They did not kill your Spren. And he said, you should know something weird is happening here. And this is the important part. And it should remind you of something else that has happened in the Cosmere. What should it remind us of? Okay, again, you Cosmere scholars, come and tell me what you think that means. He kind of laughed after he said it evilly. So I feel like that's not a good sign for us. I think we're going to go crazy trying to figure that one out. Anyway, I'm super curious about that one. The red chicken was owned by a fearochemist who was keeping an eye on Dalinar. I didn't know that. So he kind of laughed again after that. So go and kind of search for that. Oh, we talked about this also in my video, surge binding, and he talked a little bit about this. He said surge binding on other planets, many would just call using investiture. So a lot of people would just call the metallic arts surges. It's just a different word for it. It just means using the power of creation of that Spren. But then he said that Chris would not agree and that it must be a Nihil bond to count as surge binding. So kind of interesting there since we had that discussion. Also, this has nothing to really do with anything, but Adam gave away you can find out if you really try on who Renarin's crush was, which I thought was really funny. So if you want to know who Renarin has a crush on, you have to go watch the live stream or just go on Reddit. I bet they're going to talk about it. Okay, that's it. That's all I have in here. The last one is probably the most important question I'm going to cover here. Unfortunately, it is a Rapho, but the question is, will Kaladin ever find love? I guess that is really the real Cosmere question. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being so great and putting all those theories in my comments of my last Cosmere video. I love reading them so much. You guys made me learn a lot more, and I thought I already knew a decent amount. Just really hard to keep track of everything. So I hope this was interesting, kind of seeing those new pieces that we can add to the puzzle. So if you have any new theories, especially after his spoiler live stream tonight, please drop in my comments below and tell me about them. And maybe if there's enough, I'll do another video about this if you guys are interested. So thanks for joining me again. Sorry I'm like in my PJs, but I hope we can have a good discussion about this, and I will see you next time. Bye.